Man, this guy was the standard of anti-woke. He was such a badass back in his heyday. And now Howard Stern has become the ultimate soy boy shill for the elites in this country. It's amazing what has happened to the guy. Now, I know $100 million deals will do weird things to people. But it's stunning what it's done to a guy like Howard Stern, who was the everyman. He was the guy that every guy in many respects wanted to be, or at least wanted to hang out with, right? You wanted to hang out, have a beer with Howard Stern. That's what led to, the fame and the fortune. And now as he's gotten old, I think COVID broke Howard Stern. He's still hiding from COVID 4 years later. He's just become a total weirdo. And last week, he did this interview with Joe Biden. I mean, Joe Biden won't talk to, the White House press corps. But he sits down with Howard Stern, of all people. It's just stunning. The guy doesn't do press conferences anymore. He doesn't talk to the media. But he'll sit down with Howard freaking Stern. And Howard Stern is getting absolutely crushed for how this interview with Joe Biden went. If you didn't hear it, let me just play a little bit of it so you can just get a sense for how badly Howard Stern kissed Joe Biden's ass.
The reason I'm so excited to talk to you was because I wanted to understand the tragedy in your life and how you dealt with it. And you're the kind of leader I love because we're lucky to have you in the Oval Office.
Now, stop. The first 5 seconds of that are okay. As much as Joe Biden is a vegetable at this point, he is a man who, if you strip out the politics of it, has dealt with tragedy, right? We know what happened when he lost his first wife and a young child in that tragic car accident. We know about, how he lost his son, Beau. He has dealt with tragedy, and I'm sure that's fascinating if you were to strip out the politics and talk to Joe Biden about what that has done to him during his life. Now, I don't think Joe Biden today is capable of having that kind of insightful conversation because he's just not all there anymore. And I say that with all due respect, but he's not. But for Howard Stern to then go on to claim that the tragedy has made Joe Biden a great leader, when the overwhelming evidence suggests that he's actually a terrible leader, is where this thing starts to get sycophantic and completely off the rails.
The reason I'm so excited to talk to you was because I wanted to understand the tragedy in your life and how you dealt with it. And you're the kind of leader I love because we're lucky to have you in the Oval Office.
We're lucky
serving
to
as the father of the country, because if you're a good father to your family, which you are, I know you'd be a good father to the country. And I want to thank you for providing a calming influence, an organized administration post-COVID, getting that vaccine out. I remember what the world was like at that point, getting NATO, getting us to feel comfortable, standing up to Putin, the incredible large growth in the jobs, unemployment rate down. I'll give you your greatest hits. The lowest uninsured rate in history. 4 out of 5 Americans are covered for less than $10 a month. Knocking off a few ISIS leaders, cutting the emissions in half. I mean, you've always been an environmentalist.
Oh, my gosh. There's Howard Stern pitching himself for a White House press secretary. Unbelievable.
He kisses Biden's butt more than Edelman kisses Brady's butt.
Oh, gosh. That's so true there, Mark. Unbelievable, huh, John?
I will note I could hear knee pads squeaking on the floor on that, I think.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That is just unbelievable from
pathetic.
Howard Stern. It's pathetic.
Yeah.
Pathetic. For a guy who is just, became famous for obviously being the every guy's guy. And now here he is with the knee pads, as John noted, talking to Joe Biden. And by the way, if you haven't seen Biden's face during this exchange, even Biden's like, whoa, boy, I didn't know it was that good. It's like unbelievable. We're lucky to have you in the Oval Office. Oh, the vaccine. You mean the one that Trump created and then you just rolled out with the Trump administration's blueprint? You mean that one? Oh, standing up to Putin. Standing up to Putin. Putin didn't do anything from 17 to 21. And then he saw this, vegetable show up and he was like, boy, time to get to work there in eastern Ukraine. Oh, the jobs. Oh, boy, an organized administration. What does that mean? Is there anything less organized than the southern border right now, Howie?
I figured it out.
Oh, you did?
Mm-hmm.
What'd you figure out?
It was Howard's Coke in the White House when they never did identify who it belonged to. They let him off the hook.
That's right.
That's why we're getting this.
That's why he's getting the treatment. Oh, man.
Something's got to explain it.
Oh, and by the way, 4 to 5 people have insurance for less than $10 a month. Really? Tell me who that is. Where's that happening? It ain't happening in my world. I'll tell you that right now.
Costs more than that to support the poor puppies. It's like $19 a month.
Yeah, that's right. So Howard got very defensive about it this week. And here's what he said yesterday on his show. He addressed the critics who claimed his questions to Biden were too soft. He said, quote, "My whole goal was not to sit there and talk politics. I'm not into that." Dude, you just read off his greatest hits. He said, "I don't want to debate policy." You're right. You didn't want to debate policy. You wanted to take Biden talking points and read them to your audience as if they were all just 100% factual. He said, "My only agenda was I would like to get to know the president because I suspect he's a very meaningful and very thoughtful guy." Oh,
come on, man.
I mean, I only know Joe Biden through the television. And I can promise you, if I'm looking for meaningful, thoughtful conversation, he's below my dog at this point. There is, even if you like his policies promoted by the people around him, you cannot sit there and tell me that you think that you would have a meaningful and thoughtful conversation with the man. So what Howard Stern is doing here is doubling down on what was one of the more pathetic interview clips that you will hear from a guy. But it's also who Howard Stern has become. Fame and fortune do weird things to people. And Howard Stern is a case in point of that, sad to say. Because Howard Stern of 30 years ago would hate who Howard Stern has become.